Howdy, howdy, folks. I've had a lot of people asking me about the autofocus system of the Nikon Z9. How well does it track birds in flight? Today we're going to answer that question.
If you like this content, be sure to subscribe and hit the alert button so you get notifications on future content.
I had the pleasure of photographing a snowy owl, and I was using my Nikon Z9 and my 500 PF lens. Let me give you the specs on how I was shooting this image so that you can think about shutter speeds and f-stops and ISO and so on as we go through this review. So I was shooting lossless compressed. I set it to wide area, and I was using animal eye detect by default. Now I will say, and I will put a link in the description of this video, the menu settings that you have set to your Nikon Z9 will probably impact your keeper rate. I put together a section in my blog for exactly how I set my menu for every aspect of the Z9. You're welcome to set yours up the same. I'm not saying it's the right way, but you're going to see what my keeper rate was shortly, and it's very impressive. So this first pass is sunny day. Okay, it's a bright yellow eye on the snowy owl, and we're going to see how well the Nikon Z9 can track it. So let's open this up and go through the sequence and see exactly what we get. So here's our snowy owl just about to take off, and as you can see, and as we would expect, the eye is perfectly sharp. Okay, now let's roll through the sequence and see what we get. Taking off, still. Oh, and as we go through this, I think what I'd like to do also is take a look at what image I would actually choose as I'm going through to select a snowy owl image that I would want to print or put on my website. So let's do that as we go through this as well. This is a very nice look back image. Eye is perfectly sharp. I love the way the talons are shown here, and the wing, of course, at 6400th is perfectly sharp and with an ISO of 1600. Very little noise. That'll clean up in topaz denoise quite nicely. We continue through the sequence. Again, a really nice image with the wings. I like that. I would be cropping in on that image. Yeah, something like that. Again, the eye is sharp, everything's crisp, we've got some nice talon, and we've got nice detail in the feathering on the face. It's distracting here with some of this dirt. Would it be better with a clear, snowy, background, perhaps? But that's a nice wing position for us. Let's keep going. As you can see, the eye is perfectly in focus all the way through, but we're on the same focal plane. The bird hasn't started taking off towards us yet, so I would expect the Z9 to do pretty well. Again, we've got a nice look back image there, less distracting. I probably think that image is a little bit better once we clean it up, because the background's quite a bit nicer. Continuing, interesting, we've got kind of that, what do we call that, Wilson over the fence look, howdy neighbor. Interesting, again, the background starting to get much nicer. That noise that we see will clean up. There's some kind of a pole or something here that we can clean up in Photoshop to clean that up, but that's kind of an interesting image as well. We'll keep going. Our eye is still in focus. Another wing position that's kind of nice. And our eye is perfectly in focus. Wow. Since we're getting a lot of images that we could choose from in this pass, Again, that's a nice one. Again, now the background's really quite nice. We'd get rid of this piece right here because I'm not thrilled with that, but wow, that's a really nice image as well. Keep going through the sequence. Our eye is still in focus all the way through this sequence thus far. There's another one. Now, I'm not a fan of, as we move into clear blue sky backgrounds, I'm not a fan of that. But this is still another nice image, framed up very nicely. Not a lot of shadow, just a little bit up here in the wing, but the sunlight has really rendered this image quite nicely. Our eye's still in focus all the way through. Let's keep going. Another nice wing position. Eye still in focus. I really like that. That's kind of a repeat of one we've already seen. That one's kind of interesting. We might crop it out, you know, more on a vertical. See if our eye is still very sharp. This bird's now starting to fly towards us, right? So this is where the Z9 would get challenged. Okay, we're still, I should mention there were 55 images in this sequence, and we'll see as we move through. There's another nice wing position. As you can see, that eye is tack sharp still. Is that one a little soft? No, that eye's sharp as well. Keep rolling. Keep rolling. Now you can see I'm having trouble keeping the bird in the frame, so sometimes we have user error. I've clipped the wing here. So as much as I might like that image, it's not one that I would use because I clipped the wing. Now we're back in the frame. Back in the frame. Eye is tack sharp. Nice little catch light. Pay attention to that as you're selecting your images and which ones you want to print. That little white catch light that you see right there really makes for beautiful eye contact, and I look for that in my images when I'm trying to select the right one. And we've still got that catch light in that image as well. That's another nice one with the full wingspan. Still focused on the eye. If you wanted to do some kind of a close-up, that one's still focused on the eye. We've got a nice little catch light still. You see, this bird's now getting very close to me, and we're still focused, right? And that's one of the images that I chose. That's a TIFF image that I pulled out and edited, but I think now that I look back on those images, this noisy background with all the corn stalks doesn't thrill me, and we had some other nice wing positions, so I think I might take that. Now, let's back out of that, move up a level. So I think we can agree that in good light, which is what we had there, Z9 tracked 100%. We didn't have one eye that was out of focus. What about low light? I think that's what most people would like to see, so let's open that up. Here's our snowy owl. As you can see over here to the left, the sun has pretty much set. It's just going below the horizon. We're getting a really quite a lovely coloring in the sky, and I've exposed it a little more for the sky to give us that orange color. But let's see what happens here. We're focused on the eye. This image spec, we've got 75 images to go through on this pass. As you can see, it's very low light. I'm shooting at ISO 3200. You can see the noise, right? There's quite a bit of noise in this image. I'm shooting Still with the Z9 and the 500 PF. I didn't change the lens. And I'm at 1/2500th now, and I changed my f-stop from f8 to 5.6 to give me a little more light as I'm photographing this bird in this very low light condition. Alright, so we got 75 images to roll through, and I did select 2 out of this that I will show you at the end to see if we can clean up the noise and whether the eye is in focus, because it is a little bit difficult to tell with the noise and how low the light is whether the eye is sharp or not, right? But you'll have to trust me that it is sharp in this image. Alright, so let's back this out, and our bird takes off. Interesting wing position. Got some nice snow lifting here. We got some rim light on the feet there and a little bit around the body, which is interesting, but I'm not really thrilled with that particular image. The wing spread's interesting on that one. This is one of the ones that I actually selected to show you whether the eye was sharp or not. I kind of like the translucency of the feathers here, which was nice. I like the eye contact, and I like how sharp these wings are going down into the darker part of the light. Alright, so let's roll through the sequence here of 75 images and see. This bird's still on the same plane where it took off from, so Z9's not having any problem at all focusing on the eye yet. Alright, as the bird starts to fly now towards us, that eye, disregard the noise, but that eye is still in focus. Okay, starting to move towards us now, and you don't get an appreciation for how quick the bird's coming in towards me, but you'll have to trust me that this bird is moving quite quickly towards me once it banks and makes its pass. So here we go. We're getting some different wing positions. The coloring in the sky for me is much nicer than it would be if we just had our blue sky from the last image. As this bird starts to come down a little lower, we get some nicer color down here in the bottom. Okay, we're still, as you can see, that eye is still in focus. Okay, we're coming down into some nicer light now. Our eye is still in focus. Still in focus. Okay. Nice coloring starting to show up here. If I was trying to select an image to print, that's what I'm looking for, is that nice coloration. Is our eye in focus? Yes, it's still in focus. The wing tips aren't down into the dark yet, and I think that is a consideration. If we were down into the dark with the way the light is, we would lose the detail in the smaller feathers here, so that's a consideration when you're looking at your images. Are we still... Yep, Z9 still tracking that eye. And remember, this is very low light. The sun has pretty much gone under at this point. Okay, that bird is coming in, getting really close now to me. As you can see, that eye still in focus. Still in focus. And that bird's right on top of me at this point. We're almost to the point where the PF would not be able to focus on the bird. And even as we leave the frame, that eye is in focus. There, I'll say that one's not in focus as we leave the frame. So out of 75 images, I'm going to say that we have 74? Just that last one, which we wouldn't use anyway. So, I mean, we're almost 100% hit rate. From that same shoot, I edited a few images, and I did want to show those to you. The beautiful magenta light that was available with this snowy owl, and I shot this at 1/500th. It is cleaned up in topaz with denoise and sharpen, because I had to shoot out of a high ISO. I was in around 3200 again, but that image cleaned up beautifully, and I loved the light, and I loved that the wings had a little bit of a blur to it, but that eye is still tack sharp. This was one of the low light images, and I just loved how that backlighting came through on the bird, which is fantastic. This was the takeoff image. Okay, this bird, as you know from seeing the original image, this bird was quite far away at this point, so we lost the detail in the feathering, right? The feathering around the beak area is not great. But what I wanted to show you here is the eye sharp? I mean, that's really what we're talking about with this, is the eye sharp? Is the Z9 able to track the bird? And the answer is, in that image, yes. Now, I would expect that because the bird was on the same focal plane that it took off from. So we didn't have an issue with the bird coming towards us. But what about where the bird's actually in flight and coming towards us? This is not how I would edit this photo. I lightened it up. I prefer it where we had that darker orange color down on the bottom, but for the purposes of showing you whether the eye was sharp or not, I wanted to lighten things up so we could take a closer look at it. And as you can see, this bird's, you know, halfway through the pass. He's moving very quickly towards me. It's in very low light, and that eye is still tack sharp. Low light, out of all the 75 images, I mean, we nailed it, right? So I encourage you to go over to the menu in the description, that blog post on how to set up your Z9 for birds in flight. That'll really help you with your keeper rate. I don't think there's much really to complain about the Z9 in terms of autofocus if you set it up right. And I've had more luck with wide area and animal detect than I have with the 3D tracking. I've tested both of them. And the high ISO capabilities and the ability to clean up the images is fantastic. So if you enjoyed this video, take a look at the post. Set up your menu the same way I have mine set up. Get out there and run a few tests and see what your keeper rate is. I'd love to, you know, in the comments, let me know how you're making out. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those, but I'd love to hear from other people on their experiences with birds in flight. Thanks for joining me. Enjoy your day.
Sharing this content with you is so much fun for me. If you want to help support the channel, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, bang on the alert button, share it out, or give us a comment. It all helps, and it's much appreciated.